Shalom, shalom, shalom. Most High in Christ bless to everyone. Happy Sabbath to all of you. Happy Feast of Tabernacle to everybody. And today is October 14th. Like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, do all that kind of good stuff. We're going to get into today's lesson. As we always do, we start off with the reading of the laws, and then we're going to get into the topic at hand. So here we go. The laws, Ecclesiasticus chapter 39, verse 1. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep the sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. There you go.
The Kohanim must not eat unblemished firstborn animals outside Jerusalem. Deuteronomy 12 and 17. Thou mayest not eat within thy gates the tithe of the corn, of thy corn, or of thy wine, or of thy oil, or the firstlings of thy herds, or of thy flock, nor any of thy vows which thou vowest, nor thy free will offerings, or heave offering of thine hand.
Not to redeem the firstborn, Numbers chapter 18, verse 17. But the firstling of a cow, or the firstling of a sheep, or the firstling of a goat, thou shalt not redeem. They are holy. Thou shalt sprinkle their blood upon the altar, and shalt burn their fat for an offering made by fire, for a sweet savor unto the Lord.
Separate the tithe from animals. Leviticus 27 and 32. And concerning the tithe of the herd, or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord.
Not to redeem the tithe. Leviticus chapter 27, verse 33. He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed.
Every person must bring a sin offering in the temple for his transgression. Leviticus 4 and 27. And if any one of the common people sin through ignorance, while he doeth somewhat against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which ought not to be done, and be guilty.
Bring in Asham Talui, temple offering, when uncertain of guilt. Leviticus chapter 5, verse 17. And if a soul sin and commit any of these things which are forbidden to be done by the commandments of the Lord, though he wist it not, yet is he guilty, and shall bear his iniquity. And he shall bring a ram without blemish out of the flock with thy estimation for a trespass offering unto the priest. And the priest shall make an atonement for him concerning his ignorance wherein he erred, and wist it not, and it shall be forgiven him.
Bring an asham, if I said that right, vaday, temple offering, if I said that right, when guilt is ascertained. Leviticus 6 and 6. And he shall bring his trespass offering unto the Lord, a ram without blemish out of the flock with thy estimation, for a trespass offering unto the priest.
Bringing Olev Vayad, a temple offering, if the person is wealthy, an animal, if poor, a bird or meal offering. Leviticus chapter 5, verse 7. If he be not able to bring a lamb, then he shall bring for his trespass, which he hath committed, 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons unto the Lord, one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. And he shall bring them unto the priest, who shall offer that which is for the sin offering first, and wring off his head from his neck, but shall not divide it asunder. And he shall sprinkle of the blood of the sin offering upon the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be wrung out at the bottom of the altar. It is a sin offering. And he shall offer the second for a burnt offering according to the manner. And the priest shall make an atonement for him for his sin which he hath sinned, and it shall be forgiven him. But if he be not able to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, then he that sinned shall bring for his offering the 10th part of an ephah of fine flour for a sin offering, and shall put no oil upon it, neither shall he put any frankincense thereon, for it is a sin offering.
The Sanhedrin must bring an offering in the temple when it rules in error, Leviticus 4 and 13. And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance, and the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against any of the commandments of the Lord concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty.
A woman who had a running vaginal issue must bring an offering in the temple after she goes to the mikveh, ritual bath. Leviticus chapter 15, verse 28. But if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take unto her 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons, and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
A woman who gave birth must bring an offering in the temple after she goes to the mikvah, the ritual bath. Leviticus 12 and 6. And when the days of her purifying are fulfilled for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring a lamb of the first year from a burnt offering, for a burnt offering, a young pigeon, a turtle dove for a sin offering, or the door of the tabernacle of the congregation unto the priest.
And we will start with 436 next time, Lord willing. All right. Today's topic is called "They Have Parted My Land." And of course, we are familiar, those who frequently read the scriptures and study the scriptures, you are familiar with that particular phrase, which is taken from Joel chapter 3, verse 2. They have parted my land. And of course, what's happening in the news right now is the war that kicked off last week, Saturday, I believe it was, or Friday night last week, between Hamas and Israel. And so all week long, tensions have been, conflict has been, they've been going at it. Death toll has been increasing. Fake news has been emerging. Joe Biden, there's a video of Joe Biden even repeating what has now been identified as fake news, wherein he says 40 babies have been beheaded by Hamas. But according to the news outlets, that's not true. According to the news outlets, they have not beheaded babies as such. But the media is, Joe Biden and others, they are perpetuating this type of misinformation. And so we want to kind of touch on it a little bit in today's class. Okay, so let's start with Joel chapter 3, verse 2. Let me get the text, Elder.
Okay.
Okay. Bear with me, it's computer's freezing on me.
Yeah, it's moving slow there. I'm freezing one.
There we go. Hopefully, we won't have no complications.
Right.
Okay, start at verse 1. Joel chapter 3, verse 1.
It's the book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
When I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. As we repeatedly teach on this channel here at Children of Israel Ministries, Judah is the so-called African American, the so-called black man. That is who Judah is. Jerusalem, well, Jerusalem would be comprised of kind of both. Judah and Jerusalem would be comprised of the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Judah, the tribe of Benjamin, and the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Judah, as I just said, is the Negro. The tribe of Benjamin are the Jamaicans. And the tribe of Levi are the Haitians. Okay, continue.
2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land.
And parted my land, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Okay, so according to the text, the house of Judah was taken into captivity. And when that happened, after time of being away from the land, the other nations, they would come and they would divide the land among themselves. Now, as we continue reading, we even see who the Most High is displeased with concerning taking the house of Judah, taking or parting the land. Okay, so let's continue on. Verse 3.
Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine.
Where it says they have cast lots for my people, that's a bidding frenzy. That's a bidding war. Okay, they have cast lots for my people. They have given a boy for an harlot. They have given a boy for an harlot. They made that boy to be a breeder. They made him to produce babies intentionally so they could take those children. And sold a girl for wine. All of these things we read about, documented when we read of the transatlantic slave trade. When we read the accounts, when we read how those merchants literally did these things during the time period of the transatlantic slave trade. Go on.
Joel 3 and 4. Yea, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon?
Tyre and Zidon are two African nations, are two Hamitic people. Tyre and Zidon are two Hamitic people. Go on.
And yea, what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coast of Palestine?
In Palestine, those are the Arabs. Palestine are the Arabs. So these are individuals that descended from Ishmael. Go on.
Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me, swiftly and speedily will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Go on.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things.
My goodly pleasant things. Go on.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians.
So here we are now at verse 6. Verse 6 goes right back to verse 1. Okay, or verse 2. The screens. There you go. The children also of Judah and of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians. Grecians meaning the Greeks, meaning white people. So who sold the children of Judah and Jerusalem? Tyre and Zidon, and so African nation, Arab nation sold us to the white nation. Okay, go on.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem, I said Judah and Jerusalem, have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Sorry,
that ye may remove them far from their border. Now, I didn't bring this up. Bear with me. I just thought about something that I want to discuss. Okay, we were talking about Judah being taken from their land and being sold to the Grecians. That's what we were talking about. So I want to show here we are. This is Wikipedia. And for some of you out there, you do not appreciate Wikipedia. However, this is a quick reference to get to it. You can do your own scholarly research. Siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD. And here's what it says. That the siege of Jerusalem of 70 AD was the decisive event of the first Jewish-Roman war between 66 and 73 CE or AD, in which the Roman army, led by future Emperor Titus, besieged Jerusalem, the center of Jewish rebel resistance to the Roman province of Judea. Following a 5-month siege, the Romans destroyed the city and the second Jewish temple. Okay. It was this event where the Jews had fled out of Jerusalem. Let me get a map. Computer is going slow, ladies and gentlemen. Be patient with me. And so textbooks inform us that the Jews had fled out of Jerusalem at that time period, and they came into Egypt, and they came down south, down to Sudan, and came down south into the Sudan. They went westward. Computer is going slow, folks. Computer is moving slow. I apologize. I'm at the mercy of the computer. I'm at the mercy of the computer. So it came down south into Sudan, and they went west, and all of this was called Negro land. All of this is where the Jews went. All of this, this is where the slaves were captured and taken into the different parts of the globe. Okay? All right. With that, I want us to go to this book. The book is called 10 Myths About Israel.
Bring it out.
Okay. Here's the book. Can you see it well enough? All right. 10 Myths About Israel. All right. It's a relatively recent book. As you see, 2017. So relatively very recent, but it predates what's going on as of last weekend. Okay. And here is a map of Israel. This is current maps. Okay. And we're going to look at the first chapter of this book. We're going to look at the first chapter. Okay. Palestine was an empty land. That's one of the arguments made by the Zionists. Zionists are the Israelis that occupy that land right now. You know, Netanyahu and the whole shebang. Okay. The geopolitical space today called Israel or Palestine has been a recognized country since Roman times. Its status and conditions in the distant past are topics for heated debate between those who believe that sources such as the Bible have no historical value, and those who regard the Holy Book as a historical account. The significance of the country's pre-Roman history will be treated in this book in the next few chapters. However, it seems there is a wide consensus among scholars that it was the Romans who granted the land the name Palestinia, which predated all the other similar references to the land as Palestine. During the period of the Roman and later Byzantine rule, it was an imperial province, and its fate depended very much on the fortunes of Rome and later Constantinople. So those people, the Palestinians, the Arabs, they were there, but they were under Roman jurisprudence. The Romans dictated the get down on life and commerce and what have you. From the mid-17th century onwards, Palestine's history was closely linked to the Arab and Muslim worlds, with a short interval in the medieval period when it ceded to the Crusaders. Various Muslim empires and dynasties from the north, east, and south of the country aspired to control it, since it was home to the second holiest place in the Muslim religion after Mecca and Medina. It also had other attractions, of course, due to its fertility and strategic location. The cultural richness of some of these past rulers can still be seen in parts of Israel and Palestine, although local archaeology gives precedence to Roman and Jewish heritages, and hence the legacy of the Mamelukes and the Seljuks, those fertile and thriving medieval Islamic dynasties, has not yet been excavated. Even more relevant to an understanding of the contemporary Israel and Palestine is the Ottoman period, commencing with the occupation of the land in 1517. So 1517 onward, up until, well, we'll get into that, up until when Israel became a state in 1948. From 1517, that land was occupied by the Ottomans. So the Ottoman had control over it. So it changed hand from the Romans to the Ottomans. The Ottomans remained there for 400 years, and their legacy is still felt today in several respects. The legal system of Israel, the religious court records, the sigil, the land registry, and a few architectural gems all testify to the significance of the Ottomans' presence. When the Ottomans arrived, they found a society that was mostly Sunni Muslim and rural, but with small urban elites who spoke Arabic. Less than 5% of the population was Jewish, and probably 10 to 15% were Christian, as Jonathan Mendel comments. The exact percentage of Jews prior to the rise of Zionism is unknown. However, it probably ranged from 2 to 5%. According to Ottoman records, a total population of 462,465 resided in 1878 in what is today Israel, Palestine. Okay. Of this number, 403,795, or 87%, were Muslim. 43,659, 10%, were Christian, and 15,011, 3%, were Jewish. The Jewish communities around the world regarded Palestine at that time as the Holy Land of the Bible. Now, here we are in 1800s. So 1800s, this Jewish right here, these are Ashkenazi Jews. These are Ashkenazi Jews. The Jewish communities around the world regarded Palestine at that time as the Holy Land of the Bible. Pilgrimage in Judaism does not have the same role as it does in Christianity and Islam, but nonetheless, some Jews did see it as a duty and in small numbers visited the country as pilgrims. As one of the chapters in the book will show, before the emergence of Zionism, it was mainly Christians who wished for ecclesiastical reasons to settle Jews in Palestine more permanently. It was the emergence of Christians, Zionism, Christian Zionism, who wanted to put the Ashkenazi Jews in that region. You would not know this was Palestine in the 400 years of Ottoman rule from looking at the official website of the Israeli Foreign Ministry related to the history of Palestine since the 16th century. Following the Ottoman conquest in 1517, the land was divided into four districts attached administratively to the province of Damascus and ruled from Istanbul. At the onset of the Ottoman era, some 1,000 Jewish families lived in the country, mainly in Jerusalem, Nablus, Hebron, Gaza, Safed, and the villages of the Galilee. The community was composed of the descendants of Jews who had always lived in the land, as well as immigrants from North Africa and Europe. Orderly government until the death, 1566, of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent brought improvements and stimulated Jewish immigration. Some newcomers settled in Jerusalem, but the majority went to Safed, where the mid-16th century, the Jewish population had risen to about 10,000, and the town had become a thriving textile center. Okay, so business is happening, commerce is happening, culture is happening, and all these things have been happening prior to 1880s, prior to 1800s, prior to 1948. 16th century Palestine, it appears, was mainly Jewish, and the commercial lifeblood of the region was concentrated in the Jewish communities in these towns. What happened next? According to the Foreign Ministry website, with the gradual decline of the quality of the Ottoman rule, the country suffered widespread neglect. By the end of the 18th century, much of the land was owned by absentee landlords and leased to impoverished tenant farmers, and taxation was as crippling as it was capricious. The great forests of the Galilee and the Carmel mountain range were denuded of trees, swamp and desert encroached on agricultural land, right? So it's saying not only was it evident that these folks were so poor, this word capricious, it's saying it was very, very visible, is the argument. This is the argument that the Israelis propagate to justify they being in the land, they having taken root in the land. In this story, by 1800, Palestine had become a desert where farmers who did not belong there somehow cultivated parched land that was not theirs. The same land appeared to be an island with a significant Jewish population ruled from the outside by the Ottomans and suffered from intensive imperial projects that robbed the soil of its fertility. Every passing year, the land became more barren, deforestation increased, and farmland turned to desert. Promoted through an official state website, this fabricated picture is unprecedented, is what this author is saying. It is a bitter irony that in composing this narrative, the authors did not rely on Israeli scholarship. Most Israeli scholars would be quite hesitant about accepting the validity of these statements or sponsoring such a narrative. Quite a few of them, such as David Grossman, the demographer, not the famous author, Amnon Cohen, and Yehoshua ben Aria, have indeed successfully challenged it. Their research shows that over the centuries, Palestine, rather than being a desert, was a thriving Arab society, most Muslim, predominantly rural, but with vibrant urban centers. Despite this contestation of the narrative, however, it is still propagated through the Israeli educational curriculum, as well as in the media, informed by scholars of a lesser prominence, but with greater influence on the education system. Outside of Israel, in particular in the United States, the assumption that the promised land was empty, desolate, and barren before the arrival of Zionism is still alive and kicking, and is therefore worth attending to. So he's saying right now to this day, this narrative is being taught. This misinformation is being taught. And the United States is helping to misinform the global audience to these facts. We need to examine the facts. The opposing historical narrative reveals a different story in which Palestine during the Ottoman period was a society like all the other Arab societies around it. It did not differ from the Eastern Mediterranean countries as a whole, rather than encircled and isolated. The Palestinian people were readily exposed to interactions with other cultures as part of the wider Ottoman Empire. Secondly, being open to change and modernization, Palestine began to develop as a nation long before the arrival of the Zionist movement. In the hands of energetic local rulers such as Dahar al-Umar from 1690 to 1775, the towns of Haifa, Shefmar, Tiberias, and Acre were renovated and re-energized. The coastal network of ports and towns boomed through its trade connections with Europe, while the inner plains traded inland with nearby regions. The very opposite of a desert, Palestine was a flourishing part of Bilad al-Sham, the land of the north, or the Levant of its time. At the same time, a rich agricultural industry, small towns and historical cities served a population of 500,000 people on the eve of Zionist arrival. So let's go back to this map. So what they are saying is that there was much trade that came out of this area here, this region right here. There was much trade that came out. And that trade went all about, came out and went into other countries. So if you follow my cursor, trade came out, went into other countries, and so forth, okay? And there were imports coming into the country, okay? So there was a large import-export commerce taking place, business at hand, okay? Continuing on. We now have a much better understanding of how the people who lived there defined themselves on the eve of the Zionist colonization of the country. As elsewhere in the Middle East and beyond, Palestinian society was introduced to the powerful defining concept of the 19th and 20th centuries, the nation. There were local and external dynamics that prompted this new mode of self-reference, as happened elsewhere in the world. Nationalist ideas were imported into the Middle East, imparted by American missionaries who arrived in the early 19th century, both with the wish to proselytize, but also with the desire to spread novel notions of self-determination. As Americans, they felt they represented not only Christianity, but also the newest independent state of the global map. The educated elite in Palestine joined others in the Arab world in digesting these ideas and formulating an authentic national doctrine, which led them to demand more autonomy within and eventually independence from the Ottoman Empire. So the Palestinians who are there, they are looking to break from the Ottoman Empire. They want to be in control of their own lives. They don't want to have to go to the Ottoman Empire for paying taxes. They don't want to have to go to the Ottoman Empire to get a permission to build on the land, to build a factory, to build this, to build that. They want to be able to do amongst themselves. As long as they are in agreement as to the direction to take things, that's what they want to do. Therefore, they want to break from the Ottoman Empire.
They didn't want to have to go to them for the want of all things.
That's right. That is correct. All praises. In the mid and late 19th century, the Ottoman intellectual and political elite adopted romantic nationalistic ideas that equated Ottomanism with Turkishness. This trend contributed to the alienation of the non-Turkish subjects of Istanbul, most of them Arabs from the Ottoman Empire. The nationalization process in Turkey itself was accompanied by secularization trends in the second half of the 19th century, which diminished the importance of Istanbul as a religious authority and focus. So again, they're looking to break ties. In the Arab world, secularization was also part of the process of nationalization. So break away from what the Quran is saying, break away from what religious texts are saying. Does it make money? Can we make a profit? That's what we care about. And you're my brother, you're my sister, and I want to do business with you. That's the interest. Not surprisingly, it was mainly minorities, such as the Christians, that embraced warmly the idea of a secular national identity based on a shared territory, language, history, and culture. In Palestine, Christians who engaged with nationalism found eager allies among the Muslim elite, leading to a mushrooming of Muslim Christian societies all over Palestine towards the end of World War I. In the Arab world, Jews joined these kind of alliances between activists from different religions. The same would have happened in Palestine had not Zionists demanded total loyalty from the veteran Jewish community there. A thorough and comprehensive study of how Palestinian nationalism arose before the arrival of Zionism can be found in the work of Palestinian historians such as Muhammad Mushlia and Rashid Khalidi. They show clearly that both elite and non-elite sections of Palestinian society were involved in developing a national movement and sentiment before 1882. Khalidi, in particular, shows how patriotic feelings, local loyalties, Arabism, religious sentiments, and higher levels of education and literacy were the main constituents of the new nationalism, and how it was only later that resistance to Zionism played an additional crucial role in defining Palestinian nationalism. So again, everything that we're reading so far, we're seeing how the Palestinians that were there, they are looking to have self-determination. Their ideas, their culture is being forged, and it's solidifying and becoming becoming more concrete, and they want to break from the Ottoman Empire. Khalidi, among others, demonstrates how modernization, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and the greedy European quest for territories in the Middle East contributed to the solidification of Palestinian nationalism before Zionism made its mark in Palestine, with the British promise of a Jewish homeland in 1917. Okay. So again, the author is trying to say that, hey, these things were already in play on behalf of the Palestinians before the Jewish people came with their Zionism. He's arguing that this land was a very fertile land. This was not a barren land that no one cared about. That's what he's trying to argue in what we've read so far. One of the clearest manifestations of this new self-definition was the reference in the country to Palestine as geographical and cultural entity, and later as a political one. Despite there not being a Palestinian state, the cultural location of Palestine was very clear. There was a unifying sense of belonging. At the very beginning of the 20th century, the newspaper Florissant reflected the way the people named their country. Palestinians spoke their own dialect and had their own customs and rituals, and appeared on maps of the world as living in a country called Palestine, which we read earlier. That name was given to them by the Romans. So we go back centuries to find that history. During the 19th century, Palestine, like its neighboring regions, became more clearly defined as a geopolitical unit in the wake of administrative reforms initiated from Istanbul, the capital of the Ottoman Empire. As a consequence, the local Palestinian elite began to seek independence within a united Syria, or even a united Arab state, a bit like the United States of America. This pan-Arabist national drive was called in Arabic Qawmiyah. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing words, and was popular in Palestine and the rest of the Arab world. Following the famous, or rather infamous, Sykes-Picot Agreement signed in 1916. This agreement right here is a policy agreement where the Palestinians were promised this land following World War I. Okay, following World War I. The two colonial powers divided the area into new nation states. As the area was divided, a new sentiment developed, a more local variant of nationalism named in Arabic Wataniyah. Again, if I'm mispronouncing the words, please forgive me. As a result, Palestine began to see itself as an independent Arab state. Without the appearance of Zionism on its doorstep, Palestine would probably have gone the same way as Lebanon, Jordan, or Syria, and embraced a process of modernization and growth. This had, in fact, already started in 1917 as a result of Ottoman policies in the late 19th century. In 1872, when the Istanbul government founded the Sanjak administrative province of Jerusalem, they created a cohesive geopolitical space in Palestine. For a brief moment, the powers of Istanbul even toyed with the possibility of adding to the Sanjak, encompassing much of Palestine as we know it today, as well as the sub-provinces of Nablus and Acre. Had they done this, the Ottomans would have created a geographical unit, as happened in Egypt, in which a particular nationalism might have arisen even earlier. However, even with its administrative division into north, ruled by Beirut, and south, ruled by Jerusalem, this shift raised Palestine as a whole above its previous peripheral status when it had been divided into small regional sub-provinces. In 1918, with the onset of British rule, the North and South divisions became one unit. In a similar way, and in the same year, the British established the basis for modern Iraq when they fused the three Ottoman provinces of Mosul, Baghdad, and Basra into one modern nation state. In Palestine, unlike in Iraq, familiar connections, I'm missing an R, connections and geographical boundaries. The River Litani in the north, the River Jordan in the east, the Mediterranean in the west worked together to weld the three sub-provinces of South Beirut, Nablus, and Jerusalem into one social and cultural unit. So I can tell you from stuff that I've read about a year or two ago, this is about the time at the turn of the century, early 1900s, late 1900s, they discovered oil in this region. They want to get their hands on the oil, the British. They want to get their hands on this oil. Okay, so they are trying to manipulate things. They're trying to be the puppeteers of all things, so they can have control of the oil. And they do have control of the oil with BP gas. Okay, let's continue. This geopolitical space had its own major dialect and its own customs, folklore, and tradition. By 1918, Palestine was therefore more united than in the Ottoman period, but there were to be further changes while waiting for the final international approval of Palestine's status in 1923. The British government renegotiated the borders of the land, creating a better defined geopolitical space for the national movements to struggle over, and a clearer sense of belonging for the people living in it. It was now clear that Palestine was. What was not clear was who it belonged to. The native Palestinians or the new Jewish settlers. The final irony of this administrative regime was that the reshaping of the borders helped the Zionist movement to conceptualize geographically Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, where only Jews had the right to the land and its resources, and its resources, and its resources. So we're going to create the borders such that we get access to the resources, the oil, and whatever other minerals that they could dig up, iron core and other metals that you can dig up out of the ground. Thus, Palestine was not an empty land. It was part of a rich and fertile Eastern Mediterranean world that in the 19th century underwent processes of modernization and nationalization. It was not a desert waiting to come into bloom. It was a pastoral country on the verge of entering the 20th century as a modern society with all the benefits and ills of such a transformation. Its colonization by the Zionist movement turned this process into a disaster for the majority of the native people living there. Okay, so that dispels the first. Well, let me say it this way. Here is this author's argument to dispel that particular claim. Okay, I only want to go through one more chapter, and that's this chapter right here, chapter 2. The Jews were a people without a land is the next claim that is often spoken. Okay, and we're gonna fast forward ahead.
Talking about the Jewish people.
The Jewish people, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna fast forward. Page 36. I'm looking for it. I am looking for it. The sentence begins for both. For both. Bear with me. It's back here. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Okay. So we are starting right here. Okay. Actually, we'll start right here at the beginning of the chapter, paragraph. Thus, in many ways, the strategic imperial impulse of Britain to use the Jewish return to Palestine as a means of deepening London's involvement in the Holy Land coincided with the emergence of new cultural and intellectual visions of Zionism in Europe. For both Christians and Jews. By Jews, we are talking about Ashkenazi Jews. For both Christians and Jews, therefore, the colonization of Palestine was seen as an act of return and redemption. The coincidence of the two impulses produced a powerful alliance that turned the anti-Semitic and millenarian idea of transferring the Jews from Europe to Palestine into a real project of settlement at the expense of the native people of Palestine. This alliance became public knowledge with the proclamation of the Balfour Declaration on November 2nd, 1917. This instrument right here is a very important instrument to all of the drama that is going on in Israel right now today. The Balfour Declaration. A letter from the British Foreign Secretary to the leaders of the Anglo-Jewish community, in effect promising them full support for the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. So with this document, European nations said, we got your back. We're going to make this happen. Thanks to the accessibility and efficient structure of the British archives, today we are blessed with many excellent scholarly works exploring the background to the Declaration. And well, I tell you this, he's not lying about that. Because he is not lying. If any of you choose to go to this website here, archive.org, type in Balfour Declaration. Did I spell it wrong? Hold on. Bear with me.
Is that Balfour with A?
Yeah, that's what it is. There we go. Thank you, Elder. Okay. You can go here, Internet Archive, archive.org. Balfour Declaration, not Balfour, Balfour Declaration. And there's tons of information here for one to read about. The entire, let's click on text. Tons of books that go into it. Organize it. Let's organize this by published date. And let's go down. Let's drop down. Here we go. So here's stuff that goes back to the early 1800s. Journal of Historical Review. One to read. That's one to read. Here's one to read. Origins of the Balfour Declaration. This is something to read. Here is another individual. This person. Read this. This is one to get informed on. What else? There is, I'm looking here. Here it is. That it? I'm looking for. Right here. Winston Churchill. Okay, Winston Churchill. All right, and so we're gonna come back to this in a little bit. Let's continue with this book. All right. Thanks to the accessibility and efficient structure of the British archives, today we are blessed with many excellent scholarly works exploring the background to the Declaration. Still among the best of them is an essay from 1970 by Meir Vert of the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. He showed in particular how British officials asserted wrongly that Jewish members in the Bolshevik movement had similar aspirations to the Zionists, and that therefore a pro-Zionist declaration would pave the way for good relations with the new political power in Russia. More to the point was the assumption of these policymakers that such a gesture would be welcomed by the American Jews, whom the British suspected of having a great influence in Washington. There was also a mixture of millenarianism and Islamophobia. David Lloyd George, the prime minister at the time and a devout Christian, favored the return of the Jews on a religious basis, and strategically, both he and his colleagues preferred a Jewish colony to a Muslim one I wonder why. Because if I'm sending my own people into the land, then I can get things I desire. But if I have to rely on someone that doesn't share the same values that I share, it's going to be a struggle if I want to take an apple off the tree. Jewish colony to the Muslim one, as they saw the Palestinians in the Holy Land. So I got to get rid of these Palestinians, because whenever I want to pluck something off the tree, they're gonna give me hell to pluck it off the tree. In other words, I want to dig up for oil, I want to dig up for minerals, I want to do whatever I want to do. They in my way. More recently, we have had access to an even more comprehensive analysis written in 1939, but lost for many years before it reappeared in 2013. This is the work of the British journalist J.M.N. Jeffries, Palestine, the Reality, which runs to more than 700 pages explaining what lay behind the Balfour Declaration. It reveals, through Jeffries' personal connections and his access to a wide range of no longer extant documents, precisely who the British Admiralty, Army, and government was working for the Declaration and why. It appears that the pro-Zionist Christians in his story were far more enthusiastic than the Zionists themselves about the idea of British sponsorship of a colonization process in Palestine. The bottom line of all the research hitherto conducted in the Declaration is that the various decision makers in Britain saw the idea of a Jewish homeland in Palestine as coinciding with British strategic interests in the area. Once Britain had occupied Palestine, this alliance allowed the Jews to build the infrastructure for a Jewish state under British auspice, while protected by His Majesty's government's bayonets. We want to put our people there because the land has many resources we want to, exploit. But Palestine was not easily taken. The British campaign against the Turks lasted almost the whole of 1917. It began well, with the British forces storming through the Sinai Peninsula, but they were then held up by an attritional trench war in the lines between the Gaza Strip and Beersheba. The Gaza Strip, we just saw that. So I'm assuming, here's the Gaza Strip. I don't know if this is talking about Beersheba. I don't know. But here is the Gaza Strip. Here's the Gaza Strip. Okay. Let's go back. Okay. Once this stalemate was broken, it became easier. In fact, Jerusalem surrendered without a fight. The ensuing military occupation brought all three discrete processes: the emergence of Zionism, Protestant millenarianism, and British imperialism to Palestine shores as a powerful fusion of ideologies that destroyed the country and its people over the next 30 years. There are those who would like to question whether the Jews who settled in Palestine as Zionists in the aftermath of 1918 were really the descendants of the Jews who had been exiled by Rome 2,000 years ago. It began with popular doubts cast by Arthur Koester, who wrote The 13th Tribe, in which he advanced the theory that the Jewish settlers were descendants from the Khazars, a Turkish nation of the Caucasus that converted to Judaism in the 8th century and was later forced to move westward. Israeli scientists, this word Israeli. Let's look that word up. So here at Online Etymology Dictionary, this is the site you go to when you want to see the origins of a particular word. The entry is Israeli. Okay. And here's what it reads. Citizen of the state of Israel, 1948. Okay. It distinguishes the citizens of the modern state from the ancient people who have been known in English since the 14th century as Israelites. Interesting.
All praises.
Let's click on Israelite. Israelite, mid 14th century, a Jew, one of the people of ancient Israel, a descendant of Israel or Jacob. Interesting. So then that means that they know that there's a difference between this one and this one. This one right here are biologically descendants of the people. This one ain't. And yes, I use the word ain't. And I'm going to continue to use the word ain't. They ain't.
Because that's how the real people speak.
They ain't of the people. Let's go back to the book. Okay. Israeli scientists have ever since tried to prove that there is a genetic connection. They've been trying to prove it between the Jews and Roman Palestine and those of present-day Israel. Nevertheless, the debate continues today. I wonder why. Why is it so hard to prove that you come from the people? More serious analysis came from biblical scholars who were not influenced by Zionism, such as Keith Whitelam, Thomas Thompson, and the Israeli scholar Israel Finkelstein, all of whom reject the Bible as a factual account of any significance. So they don't count the Bible. So we know how their argument gonna go.
And you know, because they don't even believe in the Bible.
They don't believe in the Bible, right? Whitlam and Thompson also doubt the existence of anything like a nation in biblical times. And like others, criticize what they call the invention of modern Israel as the work of pro-Zionist Christian theologians. The latest and most updated deconstruction of this idea came in Shlomo Sand's two books, The Invention of the Jewish People and The Invention of the Land of Israel, which you can find those works right here. So here is the invention of the Jewish people. Here is the invention of the Holy Land. Okay. So here are these two works. You can find that at scrib.com. Let's go back, which is where I'm reading this particular book from scrib.com. Okay. I respect and appreciate this scholarly effort. Politically, however, I think it is less significant than the assumption that denies the existence of the Palestinians, although it is the complement of that assumption. People are entitled to invent themselves, as so many national movements have done in their moment of inception. But the problem becomes acute if the Genesis narrative leads to political projects such as genocide, ethnic cleansing, and oppression. And this is what's taking place even right now. Netanyahu told the Palestinians, and please don't hear me as though I'm taking one side over the other, because I'm not. I'm not taking the Israeli side. I'm not taking the Palestinian side. I'm simply attempting to provide information for us, those of us who that are like-minded, us meaning like-minded, us meaning children of Israel, us meaning we are the biological descendants. I'm sharing information for us to be informed, for us to know history, for us to know how to navigate through all of this with moves into the future. Anyway, as they told the Israelis, Netanyahu told the Palestinians, told them in Gaza, they had 24 hours to get out. And so what the news pundits are saying is that this is genocide. This is an act of genocide. Okay, let's continue. In the particular case of the claims of 19th century Zionism, it is not the historical accuracy of those claims that matters. What matters is not whether the present Jews in Israel are the authentic descendants of those who lived in the Roman era. I disagree with you there. But rather, the state of Israel's insistence that it represents all Jews in the world and that everything it does is for their sake and on their behalf. Well, no, you don't represent all the Jews, all of the Ashkenazi Jews, maybe, but you don't represent the true biological. You're not keeping none of the, you're not keeping the high holy days as it is written. You have a gay parade that you do. I just made a claim. Let me confirm real quick whether or not I'm talking out the side of my neck. Let's see. Maybe I'm just talking out the side of my neck. Look at this. Gay Pride Parade, Israel, 2023. Tel Aviv Pride, June 8th through the 9th, 2023. Details of the Tel Aviv Pride Parade. Join Israel's two-day gay event, which will begin Thursday. What the frick? What the frick is this? Huh? Images. This is what they got going on in Israel. This is how in the heck you are representing the Jews of the world, the Israelites of the world. How? Okay, let's get back. Let's get back. Okay. Until 1967, this claim was very helpful for the state of Israel. Jews around the world, in particular in the United States, became its main supporters whenever its policies were questioned. In many respects, this is still the case in the United States today. However, even there, as well as in other Jewish communities, this clear association is nowadays challenged. Zionism, as we shall see in the next chapter, was originally a minority opinion among Jews. Okay. Was that the rest? Yeah, that's the rest of that. That's the rest. All right. So now he goes and says, where is it at? There are those who would like to question whether the Jews who settled Palestine as Zionists, blah, 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 are really the descendants of Jews who have been exiled. Let's go back to this tool right here, right? This is archive.org. Let's go to this book. All right. So this book, Picture History of Jewish Civilization. Picture history. Picture can tell 1,000 words. This book was published in 1970. The Hebrews in the biblical period. Let's look at the Hebrews in the biblical period. A Semitic prisoner painted on terracotta from the period of the, what's this? That's a 10, that's a 19th dynasty. Okay. That looks like a Black person to me. But what do I know? What do I know? Let's continue on. Okay. Let's continue on. What do we have here? Let's read this. Let me make it larger. Okay. Let's look at these features. All right. Now these supposed to be Israelites.
They look just like Becky.
Not Becky, no. Come on, computer. There we go. There we go. There we go. Here we go. The thousands of war captives who were transferred into slaves made it possible for the Egyptian kings to implement their feats of engineering. Chained captives are shown on these painted clay facing plaques from a building erected by Ramses II in honor of the king's brave warriors from the period of the 19th dynasty. So these were Israelites who were captured by the Egyptians. Look at the big lips. Big lips. That's not Caucasian lips. And unless they were doing liposuction, is it, what do you call it? When they inject to make it
Botox.
Botox. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. But anyway, well, what is this? This? No, no, no. Wait a minute. Is that black people? That look pretty black to me, Elder. Are they black? Picking grapes?
That's Michael Jackson with the bucket, the basket of grapes.
Right there. Yeah. That's young Michael. And wait, hold on. Look, the things that they have around them is white, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So they and here we see variant shades of black. Let's read this one. Let us read about it. The upper row of the painting from the tomb of Nat at Thebes shows workmen gathering and pressing grapes. The wine was stored in tapered jugs, which bore inscriptions indicating the year, kind of wine, vineyard, proprietor of the vineyard, and the vine dresser. The bottom row shows a hunter with a snare. A hunter with a snare. So there he is. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. What do we have here? We don't have figurines of black people, do we? We have figurines of black people. Is that what that is? Let's read about it. Here it reads. Model of a granary, taxes were paid in produce, and the wheat collected in this way was stored in state granaries scattered throughout Egypt. At the right, the taskmaster, stick in hand. So then that's taskmaster right there, showing that the Egyptians are black. And the Israelites are black. The taskmaster, stick in hand, stands over the people to supervise their work. At the lower right, a clerk records the number of sacks of wheat being stored in the granary. National Museum, Copenhagen. Let's take a look at this thing again. Okay. So that's the recorder right there. There's the taskmaster right there. And that's what they're doing inside this house. Okay. More Egyptian pictures. More Egyptian pictures. Egyptian meaning the time period of Egypt, but these are Israelites. Painting from a tomb at Thebes from the period of the 18th dynasty. The hieroglyphics contain instructions such as load a large ship with barley and wheat. Later on, the inscription notes that the grain has been earmarked for a temple. The Louvre, Paris, the Louvre. All right. I'm seeing black, 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 black. I'm seeing black. Even as old as this picture is, and that right there kind of white, and see some white right there, I'm seeing shades of black. What's this one? And again, these are Israelites. Model of a bakery. Bread was a staple in Egypt. There were bakeries in which one man milled the flour, another kneaded, and a third brought the bread to the oven. The entire operation was directed by the man sitting in the rear. Very interesting. Very interesting. Here's the picture book. Okay. And so, all right. Once again, the name of this book, is Picture History of Jewish Civilization. Picture History of Jewish Civilization. Showing you what the Israelites looked like. Not the Israelis, showing you what the Israelites looked like. Okay. Now, some question whether or not what's going on over there right now, does it line up with the biblical prophecy in 2nd Esdras? Let's go to 2nd Esdras. 2nd Esdras, chapter 15. And we're going to start at verse 26. You ready to read, Elder?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verse 26. For the Lord knoweth all them that sin against him, and therefore delivereth he them unto death and destruction.
Mm-hmm.
For now all the plagues come upon the whole earth, and ye shall remain in them.
And ye shall remain in those plagues, right? And this, so all the evil, all the wicked, the 2/3 of Israel, the other nations, you're going to remain in those plagues. You're going to remain a whoremonger, a murderer, an extortioner. Help me out. An idolater. You're going to remain in your mess. Go ahead.
For God shall not deliver you, because ye have sinned against him. Behold, an horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east.
And horrible vision from the east. Coming from the east, coming from the Arabs, coming from Iran. Go on.
29. Where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots.
See?
And
the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, with many war machines. Go on.
And the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon earth.
They're gonna come fast. When they come, they're gonna come fast. Go ahead.
That all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also, the Carmanians, raging in wrath,
The Carmanians is making reference to the Iranians. Carmanians are the Iranians. Go on.
Also, the Carmanians raging in wrath shall go forth as the wind, as the wild boars of the wood. And with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land as the Assyrians. And then shall the dragons
and the Assyrians is making reference to the U.S. In this context, as it being a future tense prophecy, this is making reference to the U.S. Go on.
31. And then shall the dragon have the upper hand.
Then shall the dragon have the upper hand. The dragon. Let's go to Genesis chapter 16, verse 11. Genesis chapter 16, verse 11. Bear with me. Let me pull that up. Go on. Genesis chapter 16, verse 11.
Book of Genesis chapter 16, and verse 11. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction.
Go on.
And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him.
So that's his nature. That is his nature, that he is a wild man. Go back to Second Ezra 15 and 31.
Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 31. And then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature.
Remembering their nature. What's their nature? Wild man. Go on.
And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these shall be trouble-bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and in their host shall be fear and dread, and strife among their kings. Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm. They shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and blood shall be from the sword unto the belly.
So this is the prophecy. Does what's going on in Israel line up with this prophecy? Well, the way it's playing out right now, I would say no. Whether or not this is going to lead to this prophecy, I don't know. But the way it's playing out right now, I would say no. Okay. But the takeaway for us is that the Arabs are going to become united. The Arabs are going to become united. And Iran is going to join with them. So this could be that starting point, because Hamas, they are saying, they're in the news that Hamas is claiming that Iran has sponsored them with the equipment to pursue this thing, and that Iran gave Hamas the green light to do this. Iran, they denied the claim, and at the same time, Iran said that they're not upset with Hamas for what they did. So you have that coming from Iran. Then I saw a caption yesterday, about Iran and Israel going to war. So right now there's so much noise. It's hard for me. It's hard for Michael to say, this is it and this is going to be. I want to be a little more careful in what I speak, and not just speak something, then a week from now, 5 months from now, have to take it back, be called out on it. So here's the prophecy in Second Ezra that we want to be mindful of in terms of what things to look for. The events that are happening right now, do these events line up? The way they are right now, my my purview is no. But it could definitely be that this is where it's going. Okay. All right. So now go to Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 14.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 12, and verse 14. Thus saith the Lord against all mine evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit.
Which I have caused. Why? Because the Lord was upset with the children of Israel. So the Lord, he punished us. And he used the other people to punish us. To prove what I'm saying, or to show what I'm saying, go to Romans chapter 13, verse 1.
It's the book of Romans, chapter 13, and verse 1. Let every soul be subject unto the higher power.
Okay.
For there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God.
So every ruler that is put in place, that happens at the will of the Lord, at the will of the Most High God. Joe Biden coming into office happened at the will of the Most High God. Read on.
Still in Romans?
Romans chapter 13, verse 2.
Okay. 13, Romans 13 and 2. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power, resist the ordinance of God. And they that resist shall receive themselves damnation.
Shall receive to themselves damnation. So those individuals are put in position at the will of the Most High. And they're going to do the bidding of the Most High. I'm not saying they're going to keep the commandments. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying they're going to do the bidding of the Most High, whatever that bidding is. If we get out of line, those individuals are going to do us harm. Read.
3. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil.
But to the evil.
Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same.
I shall have praise of the same. Go on.
For he is the minister of good to thee for good.
He is the minister of God to thee for good. Read that again.
Thank you, sir. For he is the minister of God to thee for good.
Right.
But if
that person, Joe Biden, the police department that we have to contend with here in America, those powers are put in place at the will of the Most High God. Read on.
But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid.
Be afraid. Go on.
For he beareth not the sword in vain.
He beareth not the sword in vain. That Beretta that he has on his side, he beareth that thing not in vain. Read on.
For he is the minister of God.
A
revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil.
Okay. So, back to Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 14. Read it again, please.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 12 and verse 14. Thus saith the Lord against all mine evil neighbors.
Against all my evil neighbors. Go on.
That touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Israel to inherit. Behold, I will pluck them out of their land, and pluck the house pluck out the house of Judah from among them. And
so the Most High was disappointed with us. He was ticked off with us. He removed us from the land. Another people was put there in the land. They're fighting over land that does not belong to them. Palestinians, Arabs, and the Israelis, Ashkenazi Jews, which really are Edomites. They're fighting over land that does not belong to them. So, do we take a position? No. It's like this. Someone stole my winter coat. They stole my winter coat, and I didn't catch the robber. And now another robber is fighting. So now you have two robbers fighting over my winter coat. You think I care about those robbers fighting over my winter coat? What I care about is my winter coat.
Right. And you hope they take each other to jail or beat each other up.
And I hope that they don't damage my winter coat in the process.
Exactly. But let them beat each other up, and maybe both of them go to jail.
And both of them go to jail over my winter coat that my daddy gave me.
And then let you be the judge of what happens to both of them.
Right. So that's how we look at it. That's how we look at it. Okay. Go to Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 3.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 3. Israel was holiness unto the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And the first fruit of his increase.
And the first fruits of his increase. And the first fruits of his increase. And that tree starts to bloom, and it puts forth its sweet grapes. It puts forth its sweet oranges. It puts forth its tasty apple. It put forth its sweet berries. This is the first harvest that you have ever had. You plant a vineyard. This is the first time you plant a vineyard. And then that thing starts to produce fruit. And it took 7 years for that tree to produce, for that vine to produce. And that's what Israel is to the Most High. We are the first fruits. You excited when that thing first happens. Think about the first time you got your driver's license. Think about the first time you met your wife. Think about the first time you had your first child. Think about the first time. This is how God looks at us, the children of Israel, you so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. We are his first fruits. Read from the top.
From the top, Jeremiah 2 and 3. Israel was holiness unto the Lord, and the first fruits of his increase. All that devour him shall offend.
Everyone that touch us, everyone that touch us will offend. You offend the Most High because you touched his first fruit. Go ahead.
Evil shall come upon them, saith the Lord.
Says the Lord. Says the Lord. Go to Psalms 105, verse 14 through 15.
Okay, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 105 and verse 14. He suffered no man to do them wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yea, he reproved kings for their sakes.
And he reproved kings for our sakes. He didn't suffer no man to do us wrong. So he knew when this nation put their nasty hands on us that he was going to have to take action against that nation. He knew it. Read.
15, saying, touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm.
And do my prophets no harm. And yet you put your nasty hands on us. You sold us into captivity. You parted our land, the land that was given to us by our Father. Go to Psalms 105, verse 25 through 36.
All right, this is the book of Psalms. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 105, and verse 25. Excuse me. He turned their heart to hate his people, to deal subtly with his servants. He sent Moses his servant and Aaron whom he had chosen. They showed his sign among them and wonders in the land of Ham.
In the land of Ham. Africa was called the land of Ham. Africa was called the land of Ham. Hamitic. Read.
28. He sent darkness and made it dark, and they rebelled not against his word. He turned their waters into blood and slew their fish. Their land brought forth frogs in abundance in the chambers of their kings. He spake, and there came divers sort of flies, in ice in all their coasts.
So all kind of pests, all kind of flies, lice, gnats, mosquitoes, all kind. Go on.
32. He gave them hail for rain and flaming fire in their land. He smote their vines also and their fig trees, and brake the trees of their coasts. He spake, and the locusts came, and caterpillars, and that without number. Wow. And did eat of all the herbs, in their land, and devoured the fruit of their ground. He smote also all the firstborn in their land, the chief of all their strength.
Chief of all their strength. The first fruits. The firstborn. We're his first fruit. So you touch his first fruit, he touching your firstborn. You touch his first fruit, he's touching your firstborn. This is what he did to Egypt. And what make you think he's not going to do it again?
That's right.
Go to Isaiah chapter 47, verse 6.
Book of Isaiah, chapter 47, and verse 6. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted my inheritance and give them into thine hand. Thus did show them no mercy,
Thou
upon the,
didst show them no mercy.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Thou didst show them no mercy. Upon the ancient hast thou very heavily laid thy yoke.
On the ancient, the old among us, the middle, the babies among us, you show us no mercy. We get gunned down in the streets of America, and yet you get on the news and misinform the world at large to say the Hamas has beheaded 40 babies. You're the president of the United States, and you misinform the people this way. Where's the rally cry when we are being gunned down left and right in the streets of America? Go on. Oh, that's it for that passage. Go to Joel chapter 1, verse 3.
The book of Joel, chapter 1 and verse 3. Tell ye your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children another generation.
Start at the top.
Tell ye your children.
Verse 1 is what I mean.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Verse 1 is what I mean. I apologize.
All right. It's the book of Joel, chapter 1 and verse 1. The word of the Lord that came to Joel, the son of, what is that? Pethuel. Pethuel. Hear this, ye old men, and give ear. All ye inhabitants of the land, hath this been in your days, or even in the days of your fathers?
Mm-hmm.
That was the question. Tell ye your children of it, and let your children tell their children, and their children another generation.
And their children another generation. So here we are telling. Your job is to turn around and tell. You have a 6-year-old, tell him. You got a 1-year-old, tell him. You got a 15-year-old, tell him. We must know this information. This information that we are the people of the book. We must know the information, the promises that have been told to us, the blueprint that has been laid out for us. We must know this information. That as we age and die, the next generation will carry the torch. And will carry the torch until the coming of Christ, our Savior, our Messiah. Go to Zechariah chapter 14, verse 20 through 21.
Book of Zechariah, chapter 14 and verse 20. In that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto the Lord, and the posts in the Lord's house.
And the pots in the house.
Oh, did I say? Oh, and the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar.
Shall be like the bowls before the altar. And the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar.
Thank you. 21. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts. And all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seethe therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanites, in the house of the Lord of hosts.
Everything about us is going to be holiness unto the Lord. Every aspect of how we get down, our culture, the way of life, from music to art, dance, to romance, cooking, to camaraderie, to the way we praise the Lord and worship the Lord. Everything about the way we get down is going to be holiness unto the Lord. Canaanite, the enemies, no, they're not going to be there. They will not desecrate the house of the Lord. Their ways, their customs will be gone. There will be no Zeus, Mars, Mercury. There will be no Valentine's Day. No, those things will be no more. Happy birthday. No, those things will be no more. Those things will be no more, never again. It will be the customs that are articulated in our book. That's how life will be. Go to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. First Peter chapter 2, verse 9. You there?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to hit unmute. This is the book of 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 9. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praise of him who hath called you out of the darkness in his marvelous light.
We are a chosen generation. We are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. And it's time for us to behave as such. It's time for us to move as such. It's time for us to act in faith as such, according to such. Today is the Sabbath day, sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Let us move. Let us not be anxious to make $1 that we forsake the Sabbath day. Let us not be so desperate to make $1, but let us function in faith according to the word that is provided to us. Let us function in that faith that we trust in the Lord, that he is going to prosper us in all things. First, in our understanding of his ways. Second, in our connection with family and friends. Third, in the abundance of accruement of land, business, commerce, and the fruit of the seed, children, babies. Let's move like that. Go to Ephesians, and we'll close out with this scripture here. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 4.
It's the book of Ephesians chapter 1 and verse 4. According as he had chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love.
Before him in love. Right? What greater love is it that a man should lay down his life? Christ did that for you and I. Christ has already paved the way for you and I. Are you going to walk according to the flesh, or are you going to walk according to the faith that the Most High gives us? How are you going to do? As for me and my house, we're going to fear the Lord, and we're going to walk according to the commandments. With that, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, share the video, reach out so that you can come and be a part of Children of Israel Ministries. With that, much love to each and every one of you in your respective places. I forgot to acknowledge all of the leaders of Israel. So much apologies in that regard. So we do acknowledge the Most High God. We do acknowledge Christ, our King. We do salute all the bishops of the various Israelite camps, all of the deacons, the captains, the officers, the soldiers, the brothers. We salute all of the mothers and the wives, the sisters, and all of the children, everyone in their respective place. So happy Feast of Tabernacle to everyone. Happy Sabbath to everyone. Much love. Shalom until we meet again.